Sexpot Comedy, collaborative, community-driven comedy from Denver, Colorado. Now and then, here and there, and always at sexpotcomedy.com.
Now, for those that don't know you, a lot are probably wondering why you're Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald. That's because you're an amazing veterinarian, part of, you say you was on the board of the Denver Zoo.
I'm on the board of directors of the Denver Zoo and the Smithsonian.
And Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Insanely amazing veterinarian. However, I heard a rumor on how you made it through vet school or how it got paid. And I don't know if it's true or not, but you're already smiling and laughing, so I'm assuming it is. You want to go ahead and let people in on it?
I put myself through school bouncing for bands.
Yeah.
I worked for Barry Fay here in town and Bill Graham. I worked for Lou Vasson, the black promoter. Uh-huh. And so I would go a day ahead of the band and hire the police and the bouncers in that town, figure out how we're going to get the band from the airport to the hotel, to the venue. Uh-huh. So I started 1969, and I did. I started off with Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and then you start to learn your licks, and then he liked me at A&M Records, and then started to work for the Flying Burrito Brothers, and then worked for the Rolling Stones. So once you'd work for a bigger band, then in those days, the music industry was seat of the pants. We didn't know how many people, like the Denver Pop Festival in 1969. I remember, and he was looking at the different sandalettes, because they weren't going to let us at Mile High Stadium use the bathrooms and have the kids go in there and vomit and do it. So they're going to make us use sandalettes. And so he's like, well, how many do we need? I mean, it's a 12-hour show. How many times does a kid pee in an hour? Or during a show. So we didn't know in the beginning, or should we sell beer? Or is it like throwing gasoline on a fire? These shows, we didn't serve alcohol, but so it went from being this insanely morphing thing into the giant business that it is today.
That's cool.
Music is huge, and security is different now, So I did the Stones in 69, 72, 75, 78, 81, 89, 94. And then when you worked for a big band, then you made your bones, and then you had a reputation. And then other bands would hire you. So in 79, after the Trampling, the Who hired the Rolling Stones bouncers. So we did several Who farewell tours. They were always going to be, I don't know how many times. The only people that farewelled more than the Who, I think, is Sam Tallent. Because he had 15 goodbye things in a row. I went to 15. I said goodbye to him 15 nights in a row, crying every time. And then they finally like, God damn, how many times are we going to say goodbye to you, So we're lucky. We have a wonderful comedy community here in Denver, and so I worked with the Parliament, Funkadelic, and went on the road with the Grateful Dead, and anybody that Bill Graham put out on the road, or Barry Fay in those years, Michael Jackson, and whoever they put on the road, that's who we worked with.
Jesus, all I knew was Rolling Stones. You blew my mind with a lot of them bands. But a lot of those bands were known as partiers, man. The Dead, the Parliament, Rolling Stones. Like how?
Well, the reason I got asked back was to be professional. Like my friends, famous bouncers, Tony Funches, taught me everything. Tony, God bless him, in living with his son now in Fort Collins. Chuck Grant here living with his boy. And both, unfortunately, with some health issues, but beautiful cats, man. And they taught me everything, how to balance a checkbook, and so our thing was to be professional. And if you wanted to get asked back by the band, it was work. They're paying you. They're not paying you to party, Yeah. I mean, that's their deal. And so some of the bouncers would fall into it and party with them, and they'd like it and let them party. But the next day they'd fire him. Say, man, you were drunker than me last night, and I'm paying you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's true with comedy too. You know, I think nobody does surgery better loaded, you know.
Right.
And you want to be professional with this. So nobody does comedy better loaded. You
Right.
can't remember your jokes. You can't remember. You think you're funny, or you think, you know. So I think you got to have your wits about you when you do surgery, or about boxing. You know, this is so much like boxing, and you know, I think you're only as good as the fight you're in. You can't. The audience doesn't know that you did 17 sets in a row and that were killer. But this one you didn't prepare for, and maybe you're a little sloppy, and you had 3 beers with your buddies before the thing, you know.
Yeah.
And your tongue is a little thick, you know. So you need to be crisp, and you need to be fresh, and you need to have a clear mind, you know, to know, to pick up on that audience, you know, and figure out how you can, you know, engage and intermesh with them.
This has been a Sexpot Comedy Joint, collaborative, community-driven comedy produced by Andy Jewett and Kayvon Kalatvari. Headquartered in Denver, Colorado, with technical support from Isaac Miller. Every day at sexpotcomedy.com or at a show near you. Until next time, be well, friends.